All right, guys, so the main point of today's session is to take some of the props that you already have at home and start adding them into your workouts that we do Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So I'm going to use a TheraBand. I've got a blue one. It's the actual TheraBand brand, but you can use any one. This is kind of like a medium resistance. And what's nice about the resistance bands is that the closer you hold them, the more tension you build. The farther out you slide your arms, your hands, the less tension. So you can really scale based on the movement on the exercise, which hand position or foot and leg position you like best. And there's also ways, like we've talked about before for some of the chest lift stuff, that, okay, if you don't like having your hands off the back of your head, if having your hands behind your head is not comfortable, you feel like you're pulling on your head and your neck, you can use your TheraBand as well. We've talked about this with a hand towel to help support the head and the neck when we come up into some of those chest lifts. So we can use it to make an exercise harder, and we can also use it to make an exercise easier. So we're going to start out and we're going to work into some stretches to start off with first. This is a brand new TheraBand, so I should have some good resistance in this. And it's good to change these out and keep an eye on your bands to make sure that there's no wear marks or tears, because if they snap, they could really hurt you. So you want to make sure that your TheraBand, your resistance tubing, is in really good working order and working condition before you start using it. There's one brand that I like that I get off of Amazon. It's called Bodylastics. I don't know if it's still available for purchase, but it has a safety cord in it, and it also gives you some estimated resistance weights on what each color of tubing is. So what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm going to have you place the TheraBand around the ball of the foot, and we're going to just work on a nice stretch. So we're going to sit up nice and tall, nice flat back. I'm drawing the top of the foot back towards the shin, and on my exhale I'm going to hinge forward. Nice flat back, proud chest, so I'm further stretching the back of the lower leg and the hamstring, extending up through the spine. So there's no rounding in the back. So I've got my core engaged, my back extensors are active to keep that length through the spine. And then I'm hinging at the ankle joint. I'm creating that dorsiflexion for that extra stretch. And I'll come back up to nice and tall position. I'll reset my bands just for a moment. And you can also wrap your hands around these to really feel like you get a good grip on them. And on my exhale, I'm going to add a spinal articulation. Now you could go back to that flat back position where you hinge forward. I'm going to curl and round. I'm keeping my elbows bent. I'm going to draw my elbows back to pull the top of the foot back towards the shin. Dropping those shoulders down, drawing navel to spine. And then tuck and curl. Restack. Sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. Shoulders drop, chin to chest, and then exhale to scoop, curling and rounding forward. Draw the top of the foot back towards the knee and the shin. And that's the key piece there, is that you're drawing the top of the foot back towards the shin and the knee, and not just the toes. You want to get that mobility in the ankle. And here we're going to start to move the ankle. I'm going to push my right foot forward, draw that right foot, back. Drop it down a little bit more. I'm going to press my left foot forward and drop it back. Press and back. Moving at the ankle joint. Being mindful of where the tubing or where the resistance band is placed. think we all probably saw all those epic fail workout videos at the start of shelter in place where people were getting smacked in the face with resistance bands. The damage is real, so be very mindful of the placement of your band so you don't get injured. They do sting. All right, we're gonna go one more right and one more left. And curl and restack, sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. Now we're gonna go into our roll-ups. And so based on how strong you feel during our mat roll-ups, find the position for the hands that work best. If you need a lot of assistance for the roll-ups as you roll on and off the mat, choke up, to the middle of your TheraBand or your resistance band. Otherwise, you can come back a little farther. And then walk your resistance band down to more of the arch of the foot. And on our exhale, we're gonna sink into that C curve. Tuck and curl. Arms are sent forward towards the feet. Curling and rolling back. Imprint the spine all the way down to the mat. Nice and flat. Head towards the mat. And then inhale, chin to chest. Fold at the mid-ribs. Draw navel to spine. Curl and roll up. Use the aid of the resistance band or your tubing, or even if you're using, let's say you brought a dumbbell to this session, you could hold weight here at the chest, punch that weight out in front of you, and that weight out in front of you is gonna help guide and lift and support you to come back up. Tuck and curl. Now you could do this from a flat back. I know some of you have spinal issues where the articulation is contraindicated for, say, osteoporosis. Sometimes it's contraindicated for other types of orthopedic issues such as disc bulges, or if you've got stenosis or spondies in the spine. So just be mindful that you're aware of those positions that are contraindicated. And we'll curl and roll up. Tuck and curl. We're going to sink back into the C curve. Now we don't need to go all the way back on this one. This one also can be done flat back, holding here, and we're going to row. Slow to bring the arms forward. Have a good grip on your resistance bands, and pull. Working that rowing motion. And adjust as needed. So if you want more resistance, choke up more on your band. Every few reps or so, and especially every time you change exercises, make sure that your bands are set in a nice, safe position. Drawing navel to spine. If you're in that hollow position. And our flat back position, we're here in that long length, co-contracting core and back. One more. And curl and roll up, sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. I'm going to adjust my resistance bands just a little bit so I have a bit more slack because we're going to go into some arm movements. I'm sitting up as nice and tall as I can, similar to us being on the reformer. And on my exhale, I'm going to draw my arms apart and slow as they glide forward. Rolling those shoulders back and down, ribs and abs knit in. Trying not to shrug. And last one. Sit tall, knit in, and open. We're gonna go thumbs up, and we'll go palms up, so we'll fully externally rotate the shoulder to go palms up, and we're gonna go for our bicep curl. Bending at the elbow, pulling the hands towards the shoulder and face, sitting a little taller. If you invest in one of those nice tubing systems, and some of them are relatively affordable, like 35, maybe 40 bucks. I know that Body Elastics system that we've used in the studio and we continue to use, it's great because I think some of the systems are around $30 to $40. They have the safety cord in them, but they also have door anchors. They come with handles and loops. And if you can do a lot of this work lined up with a door with the anchor, it provides a lot more safety and stability to work off of. One more bicep curl. And we're going to go into our roll up. We're going to tuck and curl. Rolling back. Curling down the mat, one segment, one vertebra at a time, all the way back to the floor. Arms are nice and long. On the inhale, chin to chest. Draw ribs and abs in. Curling and rolling up, reaching for the feet long with the arms. Curl and roll forward. I'm going to wrap my hands a little bit more and pull myself forward over the knees and thighs. Draw the tops of the foot back, shoulders down. And curl and restack. Sitting up nice and long, nice and tall. We'll go for one more. And tuck and curl. Remember, the more you choke up on that band, the more assistance you have, the more help you have. And wrap and pull in for that stretch. And again, you could do this with a flat back. Restack, sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. We're going to unwind, and we're going to wrap the resistance band around the bottom of the thigh towards the knee. So I'm just going to tie a bow. You can do that with the resistance band, with some of the tubing as well. If you're not using a tubing, you could go for your Pilates ring as well. If we're working on getting into our hips a little bit more, let's say you don't have a resistance band. So you could use your dumbbells, you could use your active motion bars to rest on your hips, because we're going to go into our bridging. So we're going to work on creating more strength and tension in the hip and leg. So curling and rolling back, make sure that band is secure. Arms are nice and long down by your side. I'm going to bring my heels back. Now I've already got a little tension in my band. I don't have any slack built in because I want to make sure that I'm already starting with that engagement through the leg and through the hip. So I'm going to work my pelvic tilt first. And on the exhale, I'm going to tilt back. And if you don't want to do the pelvic tilt, just add the leg movement alone that we're going to add here. So I'm in my hollow position. I'm tucked down, abs in, navel to spine, and I'm going to draw the legs apart. Slow to bring them in so I don't lose my tension, and I curl back to neutral. Exhale to tilt. Imprint the low back. Draw apart. Slow to come back to center. And curling back, reaching the arms long. If you're using your Pilates ring between the inner thighs, between the knees, instead of abducting, abducting out, I want you to adduct in and squeeze that ring. you may have a Pilates ring that's the larger size that you can actually lace your legs through to then have that same directional force of pushing the knees out into that resistance ring. And the resistance bands, they come in various tensions. So we're on our legs right now. This may feel light based on what band you're working with. So if you're able to get a couple of different colors and tensions, then you can use some of the heavier resistance as long as it's not causing pain or discomfort or pushing you out of a solid position that's stable, and you can add a little bit more tension. So now we're going to go into our shoulder bridge or our pelvic curl. Remember to take out the articulation if that flexion through the spine is contraindicated. We're going to exhale to tilt the hips back, imprint the spine, scoop and curl, bridge and lift the hips up, stay long at the top, and then pull apart and back together. We'll do 3 reps at the top. Pull apart and back. 1 more. Try not to drop the hips, keeping that tension in your midline. And then nice and slow, lead with the ribs to tuck and curl, rolling down all the way through across the sacrum to the tailbone. Working that hollowing position, curling and rolling through. Now if you're working just your shoulder bridge, you're taking that articulation out, your main focus is that neutral position through the low back and through the torso. So just like we would for a pelvic curl, that hip lift, we're going to stay in our neutral spine, add just that flexion across the bra line, the mid-ribs, and we lift the hips straight up, bring the knees forward towards the toes, keeping that neutral spine. We do our triple opening. And come straight down. Ribs knit in so you're not in extension in the upper and mid back. Let's do 1 more. Either your curl or your strict shoulder bridge, peeling up off the mat, 1 segment, 1 vertebra at a time. And open. Curling and rolling down. All the way through, back to the tailbone. We're going to sit up, untie your resistance band, and we're going to bring it back to the hands. I'm going to bring my arms right up over my chest. Again, closer with the hands, you have more tension. Open is going to give you less resistance, but it may be better for your shoulders. So you may need to take a couple reps to find the best hand position for you. On the exhale, we're going to fold at the mid-ribs. Lift the head, neck, and chest, gazing between the knees, and then open. Close. Try not to shrug the shoulders. And slow to reset. Bringing the arms all the way up overhead, and we're going to open overhead as well. Arms flow forward, head, neck, chest lifts. We're coming up into that chest lift. You can do this flat on your back, just working the arm and the shoulder exercises and movements. Curling back, draw navel to spine, arms glide overhead, but as you can see, my arms are floating. above the floor, so I don't throw my mid and upper back into extension. There's no rib cage flare. Folding and lifting up, dropping those shoulders in and down, and exhale to open. Inhale to close. Curling back, drawing the rib cage in, keeping and maintaining that little gap in the low back from the mat, and we pull apart overhead. I'm going to bring my foot into the resistance band. Again, I'm going to be closer to the arch of the foot. And I'm going to draw my elbows down, and I'm going to stretch through the calf and through the hamstring. Drawing that leg back. So they're great to use for adding in hamstring stretches. I'm going to take my leg across, my right leg's coming across into the left to get along the outside band of the hip and thigh, creating a little more stretch in the calf at the ankle. And then back out. I'm going to stabilize with my left arm going out to the side, out to a T, so I can draw that right leg out to get that adductor stretch. But my pelvis is still neutral. So I've got good weight on this left side with my knee pulling in a little bit, my left hip anchored, and then back to center. Pulling up towards the face, nice straight leg. I'm going to make little circles here. Nice and smooth and slow. Keeping my tension in my core. Left leg is strong and stable. Make sure you've got a good grip with your right hand, even if you need to wrap it. Wrapping that resistance band around your hand. Changing that circle direction if you haven't already. Allowing the leg to move smoothly in the hip. And we'll go back into one more set of stretches. We'll draw that right leg back. Stretching long through the back of the leg. Draw your toes back as long as you don't lose the resistance band. And then right leg comes across to the left and up towards that left shoulder. Nice deep stretch along the back and side of the leg. And then out to the side. Track this whole left side to make sure that it's not tipping out or rolling over with it. Sit into that left hip. And back to center. Bending the knee. And we'll change to the other side. Bringing that band across the foot, arch of the foot, just a little over the ball. Be mindful of getting it too close to the toes. Otherwise you'll slip like I did at the beginning. And we're going to draw that leg up into that hamstring stretch. Now to keep most of the stretch in the back of the leg, I want to make sure that my low back doesn't drop into too much flexion. So I'm keeping that neutral position through my spine. My pelvis is in neutral, and then I bring the leg up to maintain the stretch in the hip and in the leg alone. Pulling in, and now I'm going to bring that leg across to the right, up towards that right shoulder to stretch, making sure that the second and third toes lined up with the knee, and that my ankle is in neutral. A lot of folks will get into this stretch and they start inverting or everting the foot and the ankle. We want to keep that alignment really clean. And we'll come out to the side, bringing that left leg out. Check the alignment with your right side. Pin that right hip down. And drawing up. And you may feel a very different stretch from side to side. So for me, the outside of the left hip is much tighter than the inside of the left. On the right side, it's the opposite. So those are things to look for when you're doing stretches to ensure that if you find a side that's much tighter compared to the other, go back and double up on that stretch on that tighter side to bring better balance and symmetry within those muscles so they have a more even resting length. So we're going to come to center here and we're going to work our circles. So I'm circling from the hip, and I get to use this resistance band to support my leg. And it's nice because it kind of pulls the leg down into the hip so I can pin and fix the hip better. And I'm going to change my circle direction, allowing the leg to move smoothly in the hip. Even if you want to do one extra set of circles, one direction, if you felt like the symmetry or the smoothness of a circle in one direction was just not there, you want to go back and clean it up. And then we'll come back. One last stretch here on the left. Draw the heel for the ceiling. Pull the toes back. Ribs and abs knit in. Your shoulders are away from your neck and your ears. We're going to bring that left leg across and to the right, sending the left hip down as the left leg stretches over. We come back to center, stretching through the adductor, through the inner thighs. We draw out. Check that alignment of the foot and ankle all the way up the chain. And back to center. We're going to bend the knee, placing the foot down. We're going to come back to that hand position. Shoulders are going to pack back and down. We're going to exhale to fold and lift the head, neck, and chest here. Now I'm going to rotate to the left, across and over to the left, pull apart. And we'll hang here, again, for 2 or 3 reps. You could do singles as well. Stay up and lifted. Come back to center. Rotate over to the right. And a triple opening. Now, if you're not ready to do these without your head and your neck supported, you can take your resistance band or a hand towel, place it behind the head to support the head and the neck. Coming back to center, over to that right side. Check that knee and leg alignment. Make sure both hips are evenly weighted. Neither leg is tipping out of its alignment. Coming back to center, curling and rolling down, bringing the arms and the band up over the chest. You could do this also with your ring or your active motion bar. We're going to bring our knees to tabletop. And on the inhale, legs are going to go right, arms are going to go left, pause, and open. For 1 to 3 reps, pull back to center, and switch. Arms go right, legs go left, and we pull across. Drawing the ribs and the abs in, we twist. The rotation is coming through the mid-ribs, so my shoulders are going right, my legs are going left along with the hip, keeping the low back in neutral. One more each side. And back to center. I'm going to wrap my hands, draw my elbows down against the hip and the rib cage, down by my waist. I'm keeping that bent elbow. And I'm going to externally rotate, drawing the arms apart. I'm going to hold in tabletop. You could go to a bent knee with feet flat on the mat. And I'm externally rotating that shoulder, twisting the upper arm in the shoulder joint as I fix and pin my elbows against the waist. Add single leg extensions on your next one. Reach and pulling back. And double legs. Three, 2, 1. Resting the feet back down on the mat. We're going to bring our arms up overhead, drop the ribs and the abs in. And on our exhale, our left arm is going to pull only down and over to the side, using your right arm to stabilize. And back up overhead. Now my hands are not on the floor. I've got a little height in the arm, hovering off of the mat. We're going to alternate from side to side. As you come down, you could tap into the floor a little bit, but while you're overhead, float the arms. And we're going to alternate from side to side. One more right. And last one left. Bringing our knees up to tabletop. We're going to work into our hundreds prep with double leg extensions. So on our exhale, arms flow forward, our head, neck, chest lift. We pause here, pull apart. Pull the arms up overhead, pull apart. Arms come back, we reset. Keeping the rib cage drawn in, core is nice and strong, drawing navel to spine. You could do this without the chest lift as well. Just sending those legs forward, pulling apart, and back overhead if you want to keep the chest lift out and kind of decompress the neck a bit more. 2 more. Last one. And resting the feet. We're going to bring our foot our right foot into our strap. Check the position, make sure it's in a good spot, that it's not going to lose its position and not come back at you. We're going to bring that right leg up, left leg is nice and long. And we're going to inhale to lower. And exhale to lift. Nice and slow as we lower, pushing into that resistance band. Having a good grip on the band with our hands and our arms. At the bottom here, we're going to slide out and in. Opening. One more, out. And coming up. Fold and lift. Head, neck, and chest. And we're going to inhale to lower. Exhale up. Draw navel to spine, ribs and abs knitted nice and tight. On our next one, we come down to the bottom once again, and we open, close. Keep that symmetry across the hips so you're not tipping to the right, and slow to lower down. We'll switch, bring our left foot in, right leg is sent long on the mat. Stretching through the back of the left leg, drop those shoulders down, wrap your hands if you need to, and slow to lower. Keeping those toes pulled back to keep that band in a safe position, tucked into the arch of your foot. Allow the leg to move freely in the hip. And slow to lower. And we open, close. Open out, pull in and close, we come up. Drop those shoulders down, lift the head, neck, and chest. Stay up, stay lifted. And lower. Using the resistance bands are nice. It really kind of reminds me, here at the bottom we're going to open out before I get lost on my tangent. I like this because it gives me the same kind of support sometimes that the reformers used to give, so I can make an exercise really hard with a resistance band, or I can make it much easier and more supportive. Curl and roll down. We're going to bend that knee. So I'm going to drive my foot forward, keeping my toes pulled back, and I'm going to press and pull back. It's like a single leg frog position. That knee comes straight in towards the chest, and I press forward. Slow to draw back. Keeping the foot flexed at the ankle. Feeling that tension build along the top of the shin. And one more, press. Bringing that right knee up to tabletop, we'll switch. Sending that left leg nice and long, finding that position for the hip and the knee on the right. And exhale, press. Slow to draw back, nice and slow. Check the alignment of the left leg, the knees pointing towards the ceiling, and also be mindful of the alignment of the right leg. Make sure the knee is not dropping in or dropping out to the side. That straight line. Driving right out of that right sit bone. Last two. and pulling back. I'm going to extend that right leg nice and long. Bring my right foot in to meet it. Arms go straight and long. And I'm going to tuck my chin. Curl and roll up. Tuck and curl. Rolling up. And sitting up nice and tall. I'm going to scoot myself back on my mat a little bit more. I'm going to do just a little bit more arm work. And reset my grip. So bringing the band back around the arch of the foot. I'm going to bring my hands, find that tension that works best for you. Long is easier, closer is harder. And I'm going to work on some face pulls. So I'm going to pull my elbows out to the side as I bring my hands to my face and sliding back. Nice flat back. Use your core, use your abs to keep you upright, long and straight. One more. Arms are going to go straight in front. I'm going to lighten my grip just a little bit more. And I'm going to bring my thumbs up and press out as I rotate. So my arm is going to externally rotate. I'm going to rotate my thumbs out, palms up as I open. If you want to get a little bit more range, find that slack. Coming back to center, bring the elbows in. I'm going to have you wrap your left hand so you've got a good grip on the cable, on your resistance band. And I'm going to wrap my right hand as well, just down by the tail. Arm is going to come up. Let's, for safety purposes, pin the resistance band a little bit more with the heel. So it's wrapped under my foot a little bit more. My arm is going to go straight out in front, and I'm going to lift. Three, 2, and 1. Reset, bringing it more under that left heel. You can even kind of get a little more slack on that left side. Pull your right elbow back so it's fixed. Left arm goes forward, sit up, sit tall, and we lift. Shoulders gonna rise, let it fall back down. Last 2. Pulling the elbows back, tuck and curl, round forward over the legs, and stretch. Restacking the spine, curling up nice and tall. We'll bring our arms out in front. Make sure you've got a good resistance from right to left. They're somewhat balanced. And we're going to go for one more set of openings. Nice flat back, proud chest. We're going to pull apart and rotate out. Retract shoulders back and down. Now, if you want to unwrap your hands, you can. Just be mindful that you keep a good hold on your band. and open and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow to bring the arms forward. Reset those shoulders back and down. Head tips right, then left. And we're going to do 2 more of these last holds. Externally rotate, open, hold, sit tall. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slide those arms back. Head goes right, then left to stretch. And we'll finish with our last one. Sit up as tall as you can. And exhale to open. Sitting up, sitting long. 3, 2, 1. Arms come back. Bring those elbows back. Head goes right and left to stretch. All right, guys, so that's a nice little introduction of some of the exercises and ways we can add resistance bands to some of our mat exercises, but also adding arm work. So we can be in some of those positions and start adding some shoulder mobility and shoulder stability exercises and resistance to our work. All right, great work today, guys. Awesome job.